Picture this, a massive legal battle. We're talking millions of dollars on the line. But the final verdict? It has absolutely nothing to do with who's right or wrong about the money. Nope, it all comes down to one tiny, overlooked detail, a single missed deadline. That's the incredible story we're diving into. Everything kicked off with this number right here, 25 billion rupees. That's the staggering amount of unexplained cash that was found flowing through just one person's bank account. And a number that big, well, you better believe it triggered a massive investigation that went all the way to the Supreme Court. But here's the wild part, the twist in the whole story. What if that entire 25 billion rupiah finding, the whole case, could just, poof, get wiped off the books? Not because the taxpayer could explain the money, but simply because someone, somewhere, forgot to send a letter. So yeah, this is the story of that one single oversight. On one side, you have the taxpayer who's staring down a massive bill. And on the other side, you have the tax office, armed with what they thought was a totally airtight case of undeclared income from their audit. An audit is just the government's way of double-checking that your financial records are all correct. What's so fascinating here is what they were actually arguing about. The taxpayer wasn't even fighting about the money. Their whole claim was that the investigation itself was illegal from the get-go. But the tax office fired back, saying, no way, our findings are real. Any delays in the process? That's on the taxpayer for being uncooperative. So let's break down the taxpayer strategy first. It was laser-focused and, from a legal point of view, it was pretty brilliant. They went straight for the rulebook. Their lawyers made a bold move. They decided to completely sidestep the whole 25 billion rupiah question. Instead, their entire case was built on one single idea. The process was broken. And if the process is broken, the results just don't count. And their weapon of choice? Something called the PMK, a Ministry of Finance regulation. They argued that this isn't just some internal memo or a friendly suggestion. No, it's considered positive law. That means it is absolutely 100% binding on everyone. And that includes the very government agency that wrote the rule in the first place. If the tax office breaks the PMK, they are breaking the law, period. Their argument was actually super simple when you boil it down. Look, the law says tax audits have a strict 6-month deadline. If you need more time, you have to send a formal extension letter. They said, well, the 6 months came and went, and we never got a letter. Therefore, the whole audit and that massive 25 billion rupiah finding should be thrown out. It's null and void. But of course, you didn't think it would be that simple, did you? The tax office had a completely different version of events, and their side of the story paints a very, very different picture. According to the tax office, they were saying, hold on, we did try to communicate. They sent audit letters to the taxpayer's official registered address in Dumai. The only problem, the mail kept getting sent back. It turns out the taxpayer had moved clear across the country to CIKUPA in Jakarta, but, and this is the key part, they had allegedly never bothered to update their official address. So from the tax office's point of view, the problem wasn't their procedure. The problem was a taxpayer who was, let's say, hard to pin down. They saw it as someone who was intentionally getting in the way of the audit by not providing a current address or the documents they needed. Okay, so you have two totally conflicting stories. This thing could have been bogged down in legal back and forth for ages. But then came this one single moment in the courtroom that changed absolutely everything, a turning point that just cut through all the noise. The judge, after listening to all of this, just paused the whole thing, and he asked the tax official on the stand one very simple, very direct question. Where is the official extension letter? Why wasn't it delivered? And the answer, delivered under oath, was a total bombshell. The tax official said, "Mungkin kami ada ketelidoran, kami kelupaan," which translates to, we might have been negligent, we forgot. They just forgot. A simple human error that suddenly put a 25 billion rupiah case on the brink of collapse. But how? How could they forget something so important? Well, the official explained the situation. Get this. Their audit team was made up of just 3 people, and that tiny team was juggling over 80 other cases at the exact same time. He basically argued that their workload was so crushing that this one critical procedural step just fell through the cracks. And that one honest confession, we forgot. That's what this entire case really boils down to. It forces all of us to stare a classic legal dilemma right in the face. You see, it's a battle between two big ideas. On one hand, you have procedural certainty. This is the belief that rules are rules for a reason. They exist to make sure the process is fair and predictable for everyone. If the government breaks its own rules, the outcome is invalid. But on the other hand, you have substantive truth. This is the argument that what really matters are the facts. Can you really just ignore a 25 billion rupiah finding because of one administrative mistake? So you might be thinking, okay, interesting story, but why does this one case matter to me? Well, it matters because the court's decision here isn't just about this one taxpayer. It sets a huge precedent. It helps define the fundamental relationship between a government and all of its citizens. This case really makes us ask a big question about accountability. When a government makes a set of rules, does it have to follow them to the letter, just like the rest of us? Or can the sheer size of a finding sometimes justify bending those rules? And so that leaves us with this final, crucial question to chew on. When you have a collision between the process and the facts, which one should win? Should it be the rigid certainty of the letter of the law, or should it be the material truth, the spirit of the facts? The answer to that question, well, it has implications for every single one of us.